welcome back to my channel. I'm the City Witch. In my previous video I started talking to you about the magical art of circle casting, and in that video I gave you lots of useful information on circle casting in general, what they're used for and the many different types, and also some of the different techniques that you can incorporate. In this video I'm going to be giving you a step-by-step on how to actually cast a circle. Now this is one of the tried and tested methods that I personally use, and it's just going to be a foundation in order for you to build upon that and create your own version of circle casting. This is not the only method. There are a lot of different methods out there, so I encourage you to go out and do your research. Obviously question everything I'm saying to you and figure out what works for you. I also want to say at this moment in time, if you're watching this video and you really don't like circle casting, or it's not something that resonates with you, then please don't feel the need to include it. If it's something that you really don't like the sound of and it just does not work for you, or whatever path you're on, it doesn't resonate, then that is fine. Don't include it. If you do force yourself to include it, all that's going to happen is it's going to be something negative. It's going to impact your work in a negative way, and it's going to become something tedious and probably something you hate, which isn't really going to be helpful to your craft. It's actually going to be quite destructive, which isn't what we want. But I'm hoping by doing this video to inspire you all to start including circle casting in your spells and rituals and in your craft, and start to rescue this a little bit. How this video has come about is based around my own students, to be honest guys. I teach locally and I have a lot of different students all around the world that I mentor, and quite a number of them have started coming to me and saying, oh, I don't cast a circle, I don't bother, you know, I just don't include it. It's obsolete, it's outdated, it's just not necessary, and to be honest, some of them just say they can't be bothered. Now those same students will then come to me and complain that they've cast a spell and either it didn't work, it manifested but not in the way they wanted, or it transformed into something completely different that was quite destructive to what they were trying to accomplish. And then they'll ask me why did that happen? You know, I don't understand it. And straight away my answer is usually the same. Did you cast a circle? And quite often they'll say no, and I know they'll say no because they've previously told me they don't bother to cast a circle. So then I'll kind of go, well, that's your answer. So in order to explain that a little bit further, because I know there's probably a lot of you out there that have not watched my previous video and actually have no idea what a circle is and probably don't know what it does. So a magic circle in a nutshell is a magical barrier that we cast in order to protect our space and our magical working, whatever that may be. But it does a number of different things. Firstly, when you're casting a circle, as you're casting it, it puts you in the right frame of mind and gets you mentally prepared for what you're about to do. As you finish casting the circle, it offers you a magical barrier of protection that stops all outside forces from entering your space and messing with what you're doing, but it also traps and keeps in the energies that you summon into your space in order for you to manipulate, program and charge those energies into the intent or the spell you're working on, and then send it out into the universe. It also carves out a magical space that you can welcome all your deities and all the energies you wish to work with, and it also removes you from the mundane physical world that we know as Earth and places you firmly in a magical dimension. Some refer to this as the astral, some refer to it as the spiritual plane. Whatever you choose to call it doesn't matter, they're kind of interchangeable and have all the similar energies that you work with. So what I'm saying is automatically you're removing all of the mundane and regular everyday life and placing yourself firmly into a magical zone of existence in order to practice and perform whatever it is you're going to be doing. So automatically, straight away, so many different fundamental things there that are important and useful to your craft. But the biggest purpose for a circle is protection. So if you're like me and you like to plan your spells and rituals very, very carefully, you probably go through a number of quite long-winded, time-consuming steps. So that's going to range from collecting all the ingredients. Perhaps you go wild herb picking, or you need to go and get a certain flower or a certain candle. You're going to collect all your ingredients, and then you're going to prepare those ingredients and tools. You're going to charge your tools and cleanse them as well and make sure they're prepped and ready for what you're going to do. You're going to select a location in order to cast or perform whatever it is you're going to be doing, whether that's indoors or outdoors, and then you're going to clear it and prepare it and make sure it's ready for what you're going to do. You may even incorporate magical timing like I do, so you might choose a specific moon phase or a certain day of the week or a certain astrological house that you want to work with, or a certain planet that you want to work with. And you're going to plan that carefully in order for your spell or ritual to have the best chance of being successful and manifesting. You then may also prepare yourself. So you might go through meditations. You might detoxify yourself, whether that's you do some cleansing rituals or baths. You may choose to do some smudging around your house, declutter. You may choose to perhaps do something like detoxify your body, meaning that you may do some fasting, or you may go on a specific diet of some description, or you may only have certain juices during the day. There's a number of different things that people do depending on their belief system and the path that they're on. Now, I have tried all of these myself, and a lot of them work in a lot of different ways, so I tend to pick the ones that work best for whatever I'm doing at the time. But as I say, like me, you're probably doing a number of these different things. Now, if you're going to go through all of that and then you come to the certain day, time and place that you're going to be doing this specific thing that you've prepared for, and used all of that time to prepare, the last thing you want to do is not cast a circle and then have outside forces come and mess with your spell or your ritual and screw it all up for you. That's not what you want. That's not what anybody wants. And then you're going to be thinking, oh, I'm going to have to do it all again. You may even have to clear up your mess. You may even have to undo whatever's happened, or you may, especially if it's another practitioner that's worked against you, you may even have to sort all that out before you can even think about planning and mapping out what you were doing all over again. So it'd just be a complete waste of time, basically. All of that could be avoided if you cast a circle. So casting a circle does a number of things. So firstly, there are a couple of points I want to pick up on. I did mention these in my previous video, but I just want to say them one more time for those of you who are new to this. So casting a magical circle, as I say, offers protection, but it offers protection from a number of different types of forces. So the first thing is, if you do not cast a circle, as we know, energy moves in and out of a space. It travels, and so does emotion. So if you're casting and you did not cast a circle, then what will happen is that energy that you summon in isn't fixed in that space, meaning it can move and it can disappear. So you might summon, say, the element of water because that's the element you want to work with, but then the element also kind of goes, oh, that's interesting, and floats out of your space, or seeps into too much of your space and does too much. So by casting a circle, what you're doing is you're controlling that energy, keeping it locked in that space, and you're able to manipulate and direct it into what you want it to go in because you're controlling that energy and that location. But if you don't cast, that energy can come in and go hello, but then it can also leave just as quickly. But at the same time, you've got all those outside forces that you don't want that can travel into your space. You've also got emotions to contend with, so emotions of family, siblings, brothers, sisters, all that jazz. But you've also got your neighbours, so if your neighbours are having a domestic at the time you're casting, all of that negative, toxic energy can travel into your space and have an impact on what you're doing. You then need to think about other beings as well. So if you're like me, you believe in angels, dragons, fairies, demons, daemons, all that kind of stuff, then those beings, even if you have not summoned them specifically to work on what you're working on, they're around us in our environment and in the atmosphere all the time. And just because you haven't summoned them doesn't mean that they don't want to work with you. So they might think they're helping you, but actually they hinder you, or they don't resonate with other things that you then call in, thus making those energies clash within the space, and they create problems or damage the spell that you're working on, which isn't what you want. But also then you've got the negative forces, such as really evil forces. So anyone who sent the evil eye your way, any demons that have gotten out of control or someone summoned and then has not sent back. You've then got ghosts and poltergeists, you've got entities, you've got vibrations that might cause a problem. There are lots of different forces to consider. Another one to consider is other spellcasters. So witchcraft is quite a large growing subject these days, and there are a lot of us out there, and actually on the street I live on right now, before I moved to my new location, has a number of different witches that live in this area that are quite spiritual, and I can tell because when I walk past the houses there's a number of different spiritual things I can see in the windows, and pentacle stickers, for example, things like that. So if they don't cast a circle and they are, say, casting a ritual or a spell in the same time that I am, that energy, because it's not in control, because there's no barrier, can travel through my space, and actually the direction they send their spell might choose to travel through my house, in which case it might clash with my spell and mess with it, which isn't what you want. But also, any energies you've summoned in, it might drag and suck them out with it and take it along the way, so it could mess and alter with their spell, mess and alter with yours. You see where I'm going with this, don't you? And then also you need to think that not all magical practitioners out there are good people, and there's quite a number of practitioners out there that go after other practitioners and spend time, working against you magically. So if you haven't cast a circle, then you're just inviting all of those negative energies into your space, and you're allowing their toxic energy and their evil spells to come and affect you in your working, which isn't what you want. All of that can be blocked and prevented just by putting up a circle. Now, it is true that when you cast a circle and you do everything you need to do and you're releasing that energy, that once it's freed, yes, there are forces that can still mess with that, but it's less likely, and the damage that will cause is minimalized massively. So whatever you do, spell, ritual, ceremony, whatever it is, and whatever you send out into the universe, even though it's left you and it can be manipulated or changed or altered, it's going to be minute because you've charged, programmed, and protected that energy before you freed it by casting a circle. If you did not cast a circle, it's already been manipulated and changed and messed with by all the energies that have come in and out of that space, but then also you're freeing it and it's been further messed with. So you can see how I'm trying to explain this to you, I hope. It just becomes damaged, guys, and that's not what you want. There's no point in going through all of those steps and preparing if it's just going to become messed up and destroyed by other forces. So I always recommend casting a circle. Now, do I cast a circle for every little thing? No. But if I am going to do a big ceremony, ritual, or a spell that I have prepared for, and spent a lot of time preparing on it, then absolutely yes, 100%. I never ever skip casting a circle. I always cast a circle because it's super important, and I know how important it is, and I know what it does for me and what it protects me from. So I always include that. But if I'm going to do something small, say I'm out and about and I'm in a car and I'm trying to get a car park space and I really can't, I'm not going to go out of my way to cast a circle and call in all the quarters in order to cast a quick car park charm to find a parking space. That's just ridiculous and too far-fetched. But what I will do is I do something on a smaller scale. So a smaller version of this is where you envision being surrounded by light, or if you're like me, I like to vision being stood on a pentacle, and then that barrier of the pentacle, so the circle surrounding the star bit, actually shoots up light around me and protects me. So I'm kind of encased in this energy, but I'm also stood on a pentagram. That's how I envision it. A lot of people picture a bubble of light or some kind of mirrored wall that deflects all negative energy. Some like to use fire. Fire is actually very popular by psychics, envisioning a fiery shield wall. There's spells and rituals for that as well, so if anybody wants one, let me know. I can comment that for you if you want and show you how to do it. But there are a number of different methods. So when I do that, I would envision that, which takes a couple of seconds, and then I will open up my chakras, thus freeing the energy from inside me, and then do the little charm I want to do, shut down my chakras, and then take a moment to just ground out the last of the energy, and done. And actually that will take no more than a few minutes, guys, 5 minutes maximum. So it really doesn't take that long to do. You don't need to close your eyes or anything to do it. You just start thinking and visualizing it in your mind's eye, so you can still concentrate on what you're doing, because nobody shut their eyes while they're driving, please. But yeah, it just takes a few minutes and it's really easy. So even when I'm doing something small on the go, I still always envision something, is what I'm saying to you guys. So now I've got that out of the way and I've explained to you a little bit in detail about a circle and the fundamentals of it and why I think it's important, let's jump into the video. So this main part of the video is going to be a step-by-step on how to do an actual circle casting. So I'm not going to actually do it because, as I said before, I'm moving house, so there's boxes everywhere, so nobody wants to see all the clutter of my house as I'm sort of moving. But what I'm going to do is walk you through it and tell you what you need to do. So step one is you prepare. So you always prepare for what you're going to do no matter what, and that's going to range, like I said, from carving candles, cleansing, dressing, anointing, programming and charging all your tools and ingredients, and picking the time you want to cast. So that's always step one. And I'm not going to go into too much detail to that because I think you guys know that by now. The next thing you're going to want to do before you cast your circle is you're going to want to take a moment to do either a mini meditation or do some breathing exercises. Now I know a lot of you out there struggle with meditation, so I'm not going to go into that in too much detail, but I think you need to find a method that helps ground and focus you on the task ahead. Now for me, what I tend to do is I take a moment to do a couple of deep breathing exercises, and as I'm breathing in, what I'm doing is I'm summoning from within myself the focus energy I want to work on. So if it's something for love, for example, I'm going to be picturing what it is I'm doing. So I'm going to be picturing loving energies. I'm going to visualize how that person makes me feel. I'm going to let myself have butterflies in my stomach, my palms go sweaty, all those things that are signs of love, attraction, and energy, because that brings in the right energies. And then as I breathe out, I'm pushing out negative energies from the day that I've just had. I'm sort of expelling the things I don't want. So I'm focusing, I'm visualizing, and all I'm doing is some deep breathing exercises. I do tend to do this with my eyes closed, and I only do 3 or 4 deep breaths to prepare myself. And once I'm ready, I then open my chakras. So this is step 2, opening your chakras. A lot of people don't choose to do this, but I actually think it's an important step. So if you don't want to do this, then don't do it, guys. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to open your chakras, because I will have a separate video on that, and there's probably quite a number of them on YouTube if you want to look it up. But opening your chakras actually frees all the energy from within, and that is how you cast a circle. You're actually expelling energy from the inside of your body outside of you in order to cast. So you're not summoning energies in and using those energies to cast a circle, you're using your own energy, which is why you need to know how to actually access and use your energy in the first place. So if you don't know how to work with energy, you don't know how to work with your own aura and how to actually access your energy, then that's something you're going to have to learn before you circle cast and before you do spell casting as well, guys, because you can't hope to control the forces around you if you don't know how to control your own energy. That's quite important. And again, I will do a video on that for you guys if you're interested. So step 2, open up your chakras. Once your chakras are open and you are visualized and you're focused, you are ready to start casting. So you are going to need either a tool of choice or your hands. So for those of you who have not watched any of my previous videos, you need to know which is your power hand. So traditionally, this is the hand that you write with. So for me, that is my right hand. So by default, my left hand is my receiving hand. So this is your expelling hand, the one you push energy out of, and this is the one that you receive and take energy with. So if you are somebody that can write with both hands, then think about which hand you use more, or which is your go-to hand, and that's probably your dominant hand, which then in turn means that that is your hand that you would use to cast with. That is your power hand. And then your other one by default would be your receiving hand. So now you've identified that, that is the hand that you either cast with, so you use your fingers to point, or it is the hand that you would hold your magical tool in order to cast your circle. Now, magical tool of choice ranges. You could choose to use a sword, a staff, a wand, or an atham. It is your choice. Now, I always use either a wand or an atham. They're my favourites. If you're using a staff, you're not really going to want to point the staff. You're going to want to actually walk the staff around the circle by slamming it on the ground as you go. But the other tools you can point. So I'm going to work with a wand for this example, but you choose the tool that you want to work with. So now you've chosen your tool, you're ready, you're cleansed, you're focused, all your chakras are open, you've accessed your energy. You now need to know how to pull your energy and direct it out of your tool. So step 3 is you take a moment, start pooling your energy in your solar plexus. So what you're doing here is you're visualizing all your chakras, sending energy into your center, and this should pool like a white light, and it should be white to begin with as a neutral color. You can at this point as well choose to think about what colour is associated with whatever you're working on. So if you're doing a love spell, red or pink would be appropriate colours. So as you're visualising the energy coming out of your tool, you might picture it come out in that colour, but to begin with, picture it as white. If that's too complicated and there's too much visualisations, guys, simply envision instead the energy just being white. White is a universal colour for representing anything. So you can just use that as a generic colour for this. So picture your white light pooling in your centre. Then with each deep breath in, you are pooling your energy, and with each breath out, you push the energy down your power arm into your power hand and in turn into your tool. Now this is going to take you a couple of deep breaths to start pooling that energy and obviously push it out. Once you feel the energy connecting between your hand and the tool, or has reached the peak of your fingers if you're just using your hand to point, this is where you're ready to start pushing out. So your very next breath is where you start pushing that energy out of your body and start aiming. So the next step is you're going to want to aim slightly towards the floor. Now at this point you will have chosen your particular method of casting, but my particular method is I like to stand in the very center of my space, and I like to turn slowly in a clockwise direction in order to cast my circle. I always start facing the north, as that is the power element out of the 4 elements. And again, I'll explain that in a later video. So I always start facing the north, especially if it's a generic circle and I'm not working with one specific element, always face the north. So figure out where north is. You might need a compass, guys. Once you know where north is, face north, point your hand or tool and start turning in a clockwise direction, and each outward breath you're pushing energy out and you're visualizing it forming a barrier. Now that barrier, again, as I say, could be visualized in any way you like. You could choose to use fire, flowers, mushrooms, or just light. It is completely up to you. Whatever feels right to you, whatever comes to you naturally, just go with the flow. And again, you could choose to visualize it as a color that matches the intent of what you're about to do. But if not, just keep it white. So visualize and turn, and then you keep going, forming the shape that you've chosen as your circle until you're back at your starting point, thus connecting it. So there's no gaps or open spaces. It is what it is. Now, as I said before in my previous video, your circle doesn't actually have to be a circle. It can be a square, a triangle, a cross, whatever it is you're choosing to work with as a symbol of your barrier. Now, you draw that, so if it's a square, you'd start at the northern point, but you'd start in the left-hand corner of that northern, you're facing north, but you start in the left corner, so you draw like that, and then you turn, and then you draw like that, and you turn, and you draw like that, and again. So you see what I'm saying there? I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I apologise. So then you end up with a box, a square, that is closed off, and you're back at the starting point. Once you're back at your starting point, this is where you start to summon in the energies that you want to work with. So the basis of any circle is the cardinal quarters. So this is the 4 elements of earth, air, fire and water. The only time this step becomes different is if you're choosing to work with only one element, in which case you would have chosen to start your circle facing the direction that corresponds to that element. So north is earth, air is the east, south is fire, and west is water. Once you've chosen to face the direction you're casting from and incorporate that element, then that is that step done, because you've only called in that one element. But if you're like me and you like to call in all 4 elements, you would face the north, because that is where you've begun and it's where you've stopped with your circle, and you call in the element of earth. So this is how I do it, and feel free to copy this down, guys. So I would be facing north, pointing my tool at the north, and I usually stand like that. So I've got my tool in my hand, and I've got my hand out stretched here. This is a sign of respect, and it's a sign of welcome, and it's like I'm embracing that energy and calling it in. As I call in the energy as well, I also visualize it. So with earth, I visualize mountains, flowers opening up and spreading around me, trees, leaves, that kind of thing. Anything that I find beautiful and that represents earth to me, I'm visualizing as I'm saying the statement. So I would say the statement while facing north. From the north, I summon in to my circle the element of earth. Powers of growth, prosperity and stability. Enter my circle and be welcome, friend. And that is it. Now notice how I said prosperity, growth, stability. Those are elements that correspond with earth. Now, you don't have to say those specific 3. You can change them to ones that work for you. So you might choose to say birth, you might choose to say growth, you might choose to say wealth or success or money or material wealth. There's a number of different things that you can choose to say. Luck as well is another one. So choose the 3 that match for you, but that is my statement. So I'll say it one more time. From the north, I summon into my circle the element of earth, powers of growth, prosperity and stability. Enter my circle and be welcome, friend. Blessed be. Then I turn to the east. So again, I'm going in a clockwise motion. As I turn to the east, I'm now thinking about the element of air. So I'm already starting to visualize the element of air coming into my circle. So I'm picturing leaves blowing in a breeze. I'm picturing whirlwinds. I'm picturing clouds moving. Actually, when I do this, my east is a window, and actually I can see things blowing in the wind when I do this, so it's quite apt. And I also have incense in that corner as well, so I can watch the smoke. So there's a couple of different things that you can choose to do, but you face the east, and then again you say a new statement. So you would then say, from the east I summon into this circle the element of air, powers of speech, knowledge and communication. Enter this circle and be welcome, friend. Blessed be. Once I've visualised that coming in, I then turn to the south. Then again, I'm visualising elements that represent fire to me. My favourite visualisation is an exploding volcano or a hot desert where I can see mirages. Or sometimes I picture the sun, blistering heat of the sun. But my favourite is an exploding volcano. While I'm picturing this, I'm then saying my next statement. From the south, I summon into this circle the element of fire, powers of passion, courage and strength. Enter this circle and be welcome, friend. Blessed be. As I've finished visualising that, I then turn to the west. And I'm already starting to visualise water. My favourite visualisation is water of the ocean lapping on the beach, flowing, and as I'm visualising it coming in, I'm picturing it flowing more and more towards me, so it ends up filling my space. You could choose to picture a lake, a waterfall, or a flowing river, or just the ocean and you're out on a boat or something. It's completely up to you guys. Then I say my statement. From the west, I summon into this circle the element of water, powers of love, commitment and devotion. Enter this circle and be welcome, friend. Blessed be. Then I turn and walk to the centre of the circle, making sure that I'm facing my altar. And my altar actually faces the east at the moment in my house, but in the future I want it to face the north. And then obviously I would work my magical working at that point. So I would summon in all the forces I want to work with. So any gods or goddesses I wanted to work with, any angels or demons or daemons or any summonings, or if I'm working with an entity, it might be one I previously built or I build it during that. If I'm working with a puppet, I'm enchanting the puppet and calling in a spirit to, be housed in that puppet. If I'm working a spell, I'm then starting to work and manipulate the altar and lay out my spell, and I'm starting to activate all my magical tools, and then I would do my spell casting. Once I'm finished doing whatever it is, the purpose for this whole process, I would then step away and I do everything in reverse. So back in the centre of my circle, I then thank all of the energies that I've worked with and I start to release them from my space. And then going counterclockwise, I then start to free the elements from the circle. So I would face the west first, which is water, so that's where I kind of finished, calling in my last element. And I would say, to the west, I thank the element of water for being present in my circle and aiding my magical working. Go now in peace and love to be welcome again in the future. Blessed be. And I actually visualise the element actually retreating from my space in a loving, peaceful way. So as I pictured the water lapping and coming towards me, and now picture it going out like the tide and disappearing. Once I'm done visualising that, I will turn to the south and do the same with fire. To the south, I thank the element of fire for being present in my space and aiding me with my magical working. Go now in peace and love to be welcome again in the future. And then I actually visualise, because I like to visualise a volcano exploding, I actually visualise that now hardening into, solid rock and going cold. So the fire is gone. Then I turn to the east and I say, to the east, I thank the element of air for being present in my space and aiding my magical working. Go now in peace and love to be welcome again in the future. And again, I visualise the wind dying down and it going subtle and just not existing. So there's no wind, there's no breeze, there's no hurricanes, none of that. It all disappears and it just goes quiet. Then I turn to the north and then I say, to the north, I thank the element of earth for being present in my space and aiding me in my circle. Go now in peace and love to be welcome again in the future. Blessed be. And then I visualise earth disappearing as well. So if I pictured flowers opening, they would retreat back into themselves, into buds and close up. If I pictured trees and mountains, I'd picture them fading away. So as they disappear, I can now start taking down the rest of my circle. So I would now, as I'm facing the north, I would then point my tool down towards the earth and I would start to pull back my magical barrier. So you go counterclockwise. So instead of going north, east, south, west, you're now going north, west, south, east, and then finishing back at the north. So starting at the north, you start to walk counterclockwise or turn counterclockwise and start pulling back your magical energy. Now beforehand what you did was you were shooting energy and pushing it into your hand. Now what you're doing is you're calling that energy back within you. So you can at this point choose to hold your tool in your receiving hand and start to pull that energy that belongs to you, by the way, back into your hand. So as you breathe in, you suck that energy back into you, and as you breathe out, you're starting to ground through your feet any excess energy you don't want, any maybe energy that's interfered in any way or anything that has become stuck to your circle. You then start to pull that back in, visualizing that light, that energy that you originally visualized back into your tool or into your hand and into yourself. Once you're done facing north, you then take a moment to sort of depower. Now I have a statement for this that I'm going to give to you. So as I'm walking my circle from north, west, south, east and then back to north, I always say I withhold the power back into my hand and ground all remaining energy into the land. Then as I'm returned to the north, I then raise my hand or my tool to the sky and I say power high to the sky, and then I slam it down into the ground, so I actually touch the ground with my tool or my hand, and I say power down to the ground. And what I'm doing there is I'm saying I've powered high and I've done my job, but I'm now ready to power down, and all excess energy needs to be grounded and removed from my space so it cannot become clogged and toxic. Once you've done that, I always recommend at that point that you take a moment to do some grounding exercises. Once you've done that, that's pretty much it, guys, and then you can also do dedications and thank yous to all the energies that you worked with. During any magical working, if you're going to summon in any deities or forces, I do recommend that you make an offering to them. So sometimes for me that's remains from a spell, especially if I've used fruits or flowers. I'll take the excess outside and offer it to the energies that I've worked with, so they will consume the essence, but the nature will consume the actual item. So now that I've said all that, guys, that brings me to the end of the video. So I do hope that you enjoyed my video and that I've given you some building blocks in order to form your own version of circle casting. And if you enjoyed my video, as always, give me that thumbs up and don't forget to click the bell so YouTube will tell you when my next video comes out. And if you'd like to support my humble channel, there are a number of ways to do that. You can, for example, start to follow me on all my various social medias: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and Pinterest, and I am also a member of Patreon, so if you'd like to support my growing channel then you can do so on there. And to those of you who do, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for watching, guys. As always, be good to each other and I'll see you very soon. Blessed be.